Then, with this mindset, we can dive deeper into what are the three big pillars of leadership, what I call the exponential leadership. That is a leadership that is much more in tune with AI and complementary to it and not substitutable by it. Because we'll see, if we think that the way that we've led throughout the years and that we've inherited from the past is the type of leadership that will make us thrive in the future, well, we're just trying to compete with an AI that is much better and efficient at making those decisions. We have to change and get to a new paradigm of leadership. Let's go thousands of years back in time to the age of hunters and gatherers. What were the skills that would make a person the best, the most recognized, the leader of its tribe? Which ones? Anyone guesses? Strength, power, courage, resistance, speed, and these are exactly all right. For thousands of years, we've lived under a paradigm of leadership that we can call the physical leadership. Why? Because the most important skills that would make us thrive actually in the workplace of the old days were physical attributes that actually were very diverse in between people, and they were also scarce in many cases. Then comes the Industrial Revolution. And what happens? With industrial revolutions, new technologies, new machinery that actually is stronger, faster, and more resistant than human beings come to the world. And that's exactly when there is a democratization of access to the physical skills that would make us thrive in the past. Everybody could access that through the use of a machine. And that's when leadership changed to a new paradigm that is the paradigm that we carry today. That is what we can call the cognitive leadership, right? We think, believe, we assert that the leader is the one that has the highest IQ, is most intelligent, that is smartest, works harder, has all the knowledge, all the answer. That's what we've been taught, and that's what we carry with us, actually, right? But there's a problem today. AI, as much as more than 200 years ago, with the Industrial Revolution, there has been a democratization of physical skills. We are undergoing through the same change now. With access to an AI tool, we actually have a democratization of cognitive skills nowadays. And so the skills that make us more important and more powerful and more successful as leaders become other ones that will spell out across the three big pillars. But before that, we need to understand how we got to a point where AI, again, can outperform in many tasks, in many skills, our physical abilities, our mental abilities. And we got there through the intersection of three big advances. The first one is advances in algorithms. I'm sure you've talked about that with Daniela. We won't focus too much in that, but the fact of now having algorithms of machine learning so sophisticated that they are able to replicate the way that our human brain makes decisions is actually something that already makes us understand that now we have a new sort of like competitor when it comes to the cognitive skills. The problem though is that the cognitive skills by an AI tool are much more powerful than us. Why? Because our brain, our human brain, has a fixed, limited cognitive capability, which is usually measured by our IQ, right? The fact is that with AI, the limit is only defined by the computing power that is behind that AI tool. That's why now the geopolitical race is who has the most chips, and that's why chips are exactly what makes the difference here. But last but not least, nothing of this would work out if we wouldn't have a moment in time where we've never had so much data available, not only in volume, but in granularity, in the specificity of the data that we have available. And these things together, data allows for algorithms to process them and to make decisions on our behalf. But again, with the hardware, with chips and GPUs that process all that. In the age of AI, our customer is more and more empowered. And this makes us understand that maybe we're already living in the world that the Netflix addicts here recognize being the world of Black Mirror. Who's watched this episode? It's the first of the third season of Black Mirror, this British series amazing about the future that describes in this episode a world where, imagine, you'd have an app where you could rate anything, anytime from 0 to 5, right? Imagine our customer having an app like this, and it's not that far-fetched. Whole industries are changing because of that, and soon our professional services will be transparently rateable. And imagine our customer being empowered to rate anything that happens in our interaction with them from start to finish, 0 to 5. Imagine, as an Uber driver, who would want to hire the services of a professional firm that has a 3.2 average rating, right? And if we think, though, if it's too far-fetched, well, in the age of AI, this is not so distant. We already have, again, entire industries being changed by that, which brings us to, again, the same thing, which is we live in a world where we can not only focus in selling products or services, but actually we have to craft experiences. And the second thing of a digital world where we can sort of like interact digitally the whole time is that, again, we generate more data. And looking back at the example of the Dallenbach's cow, we are at a moment where over the last decade, it has been generated more than 90% of data generated since the beginning of time. And this is not just a lot of data. This is just too much data. A huge chunk, at least from 35, 40% to 55, 60% of tasks could be automated through AI, right? And automation is substitution. Automation is just, I outsource this task to AI. It's usually the familiar, the repetitive ones, and so on. But there's the yellow part, which is super interesting, which is the percentage of tasks that could be augmented. And augmentation is interesting. We often overlook it or even not think about it. We either think, okay, AI will help me on these tasks, and then I will focus on the other. Actually, there's something in between super important, that is, how do I use AI to improve the quality of my human work? And there's a great example that comes from the leading bank in Brazil, Nubank. What they did, so most traditional banks, they use chatbots to automate their customer interactions. Nubank said, no, I'm not going to lose the human touch through a chatbot. So what they did, they said, I'm gonna augment the power of my human customer care representatives, and I'm going to give them, they developed together with OpenAI, a panel where as soon as a customer files a complaint with the bank, the customer care attendant gets an immediate summary of the history of this customer with the bank, gets a forecast of what the problem might be, and gets suggested answers so that they can just click on them and not type them. This is a great example of augmentation, which is, I'm not substituting the touch point with the human. I'm just making the human more productive, improve the quality of its work, the work more scalable. But if we always think about AI either substitutes a task or what it does not substitute, I have to do it, it's also partly wrong. The focus should be in also what are the tasks that I'm going to augment.